Hi, this is France Joshua Merida, and welcome to On Point the podcast, where I invite guests that will allow you to be inspired, informed, and updated with all of the issues. So join me as I have my conversations with them on point. Welcome to another episode of On Point the podcast. For this episode, we are going to talk about two things. Number one, the report that was published by the World Bank regarding the learning poverty. And number two, we are going to talk about the general situation of the education system here in the Philippines as we transition back to face or the traditional learning for school year 2022-2023. So I have here with me the Executive Director of Philippine Business for Education. Everyone, please help me welcome Miss Love Basillote. So para lang for the context, no, for the knowledge of everybody, can you tell us the goal or the mission of the uh, Philippine Business Education?
PBED or Philippine Business for Education ng na ng mga CEOs or mga leaders ng business dahil worried sila sa state of Philippine education din. So, ilan ba yun? 16 years ago, worried na sila. And so, nung inisip nila paano sila makakontribute para mapaganda at ma-improve ang Philippine education, naisip nila na magtayo ng isang organization na ang focus ay simple. Well, simple in the sense na dahil focus talaga siya. Topic focus, so it's about education. And also in terms of activities, really policy advocacy. Kasi sa education, yung mga companies naman before, marami na silang mga charitable actions, like they donate, ganyan. Pero sa education kasi, importante talaga yung sustained and systemic push for education reform. And so, sinimulan nila yung PBED with that intention, na may isang organization backed by business, working with business, the business community and the private sector, to push for an education system that enables every Filipino to lead productive lives and contribute to national development. In the course of 16 years, so dahil 16 years na in existence yung PBED, yung contribution namin sa education space, basically, you can put them in two different buckets. The first one is policy advocacy, yung sinabi ko na impetus or yung main reason kung bakit sinimulan yung PBED in the first place. So, isinulong namin, for example, yung shift to a K-12 basic education system. Sinuportahan din po namin yung recently kakapasalang na Teacher Education Council law at saka Education Commission 2 law that also lapsed into law earlier this year. So within the policy bucket, we push legislation. We work with different government agencies at the executive level para mapaganda yung policies na nag-govern ng education system natin. The second bucket is the project implementation. Kami kasi sa PBED, we use projects and to get data, to gather information, to inform our policy work. But of course, the project in and of themselves have their own objectives. So for example, nagpapa-youth training kami ngayon the project is called YouthWorks PH. And yung idea is bibigyan ng tech-voc training yung mga youth na walang trabaho at hindi enrolled currently. Binibigyan sila ng tech-voc training at saka on-the-job training sa aming mga partner companies, hoping na they get employed. Yung project na yan, that is also co-funded by the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID. We're getting information, we're getting data to improve the way we train our new collar workers or blue collar workers for the jobs of the future, right? Together with the private sector. So, isang example yon, ehemplo yon ng project na ini-implement namin. We hope we're implementing it well, and then we use lessons and data from those initiatives to inform our policy recommendations. Marami pa kami ibang mga proyekto related to, for example, K-12 employability, lifelong learning. Meron din kami mga proyekto on teacher quality. So, meron kaming pa-scholarship para sa mga tao na gustong maging, para sa mga best and brightest na gustong maging teacher. At saka meron kaming proyekto for K-3 naman, yung kiddie learning train na nagbibigay ng tablet at gamified reading and math intervention. Actually, sa isang, for now, pilot pa lang 1,000 youth or kids sa Cebu. But all that to say, no, na yung project implementation bucket namin basically informs and reinforces our policy advocacy bucket. And then the policy advocacy bucket, of course, allows us to do more project implementation, do it better. And so they contribute to each other. So yun yung, I guess, contribution namin sa education ecosystem sa Pilipinas.
Napakaganda lang, no, in your sharing na may ganitong organization that's really focused and really, committed to bring something to the table, lalong-lalo na sa sektor ng edukasyon, dahil I believe, no, personally, na ang edukasyon talaga is the social equalizer, shall we say, at sinasabi din ng iba. And to see PBED doing this for the longest time, na nakakataba ng puso, although sinasabi nga nila malayo-layo pa yung laban, but at least you're doing it now, and it's really heartwarming to know.
Thank you for saying that. Medyo, alam mo, pag policy work kasi masyado siyang long game. So, sometimes hindi mo nakikita yung resulta agad-agad. And so, for people like us, and we're not alone, no? Marami namang organization na nagtatrabaho for the improvement of Philippine education. Medyo mahirap lang kasi hindi mo nakikita agad yung resulta. So wala kang masyadong early indicators. But reactions like what you just had or things that you just said are also in turn heartwarming for us kasi parang, it gives us energy to continue the work.
Punta tayo dito sa learning poverty, ma'am, na report na nilabas ng World Bank, no? Last July 24, 2022. Bagong-bago pa lang siya, no? What was your initial reaction as an organization? Was this expected na parang we got 90.4%, napakataas ng mark, and sabi kasi dito sa note na a lower number reflects a better performance, and I guess 90.4 is not the lowest, no? So ano yung initial reaction niyo dito, and then was this result expected, and how do we make sense of this result?
Hindi naman kami nagulat. Pero na worry kami, no? Alarma kami. Hindi lang worry, alarma na talaga kasi matagal na namin sinasabi sa PBED na may learning crisis. Hindi lang sa Pilipinas actually, but also globally. So just to put it into context, yung learning poverty updates on the levels of learning report that the World Bank released actually does not only cover the Philippines, but many countries in the world. And so noong 2016, 2017 pa lang, meron ng report yung World Bank na nagsasabi ng something similar, ng katulad niyan, na meron tayong learning crisis globally. Nung tinignan namin yung data sa Pilipinas, nakita namin, oh my gosh, meron talagang learning crisis na rin sa Pilipinas. Kasi kahit na sinasabi natin na marami nasa kabataan natin, majority actually yung pumapasok at nagsistay in school. Kumbaga nasa eskwelahan sila pero wala mas sila masyadong natutunan. Nung nag-pandemic at saka sarado yung mga paaralan natin for 2 years and then nag-distance learning tayo, kinalampag na naman namin yung alarm bell. Sabi na naman namin, nako, mas lalala pa yung learning crisis na meron na tayo noon pa. Tapos, ang tagal-tagal nating hindi binuksan yung mga paaralan natin. For sure, lalala to. So, nung nakita namin yung report, right? So, pre-pandemic, it was 70%. Now, it's 91% or 90% if you want to be more specific, 90.4%. Wala, parang nakita namin, okay, totoo nga, unfortunately, totoo, na yung merong basehan, or parang naging na-validate yung pagka-alarma namin, no? Kasi kita na naman sa datos na majority, overwhelming, almost all, 9 out of 10 Filipino children have learning poverty or experiencing learning poverty. They cannot read a simple text at the age of 10. So, nakakabahala talaga to, at we really hope na we get our acts together and we actually do something about it to solve, and we do something and solve this learning poverty.
Follow up ko lang, no, but can we solely attribute these numbers that we got sa pandemic lang, o kumbaga cumulative na siya from the past experiences? Kasi bago nito, I remember, although I don't know if they're the same, no? Bago nito, ma'am, may nabasa na din akong na parang low tayo sa science, English, and math. I don't know if they're connected, but what I'm saying is that, is this can we solely attribute this to the pandemic alone, or are there policies or things that we must have been overlooked in the past years kung bakit tayo nagkakaganito?
No, definitely hindi lang to pandemic. Pinalala ng pandemic. So from 70 to 90, di ba? Pero malala na, 70%, majority na rin yan, di ba? Lampas 50% na rin yan. Maraming rason sa tingin namin. Dekada na yung pagpapabaya natin sa education ng mga Pilipino, no. Unang-una, hindi natin pinagtutuunan ng resources ang education. Even though in the budget supposedly mataas siya yung pinakamataas na or siya yung may pinakamalaking parte sa budget. Hindi yun enough eh. Equivalent lang yun ng on average for the past 20 or so years to 3% of GDP. Well, global standards, 6%. So, paano mo, kung baga kasi yung numbers din na ito, di ba? You also, may ranking din yan sa globally. So, paano ka makaka-compete globally kung yung mga ka-competition mo, ang taas-taas ng ginagastos nila, or naglalagay talaga sila ng malaking resources para sa education, tapos tayo kolelan. So on the resources front, we don't invest enough. Secondly, parang hindi lang din to about education. Konektado yan lahat eh. When you think about human capital development, you also think about number 1, nutrition. So sa same 2016 World Development Report ng World Bank, napakita nila yung connection ng nutrition and education. And nakita nila na yung mga bata na stunted, yung mga brain connections nila mas konti talaga compared sa healthy and regular yung weight ng mga bata. So for example, comparing a malnourished and a well-nourished kid, mas maraming brain connections nung skinan nila yung brain, no? Mas maraming connections yung nasa well-nourished kaysa sa malnourished. So kung yung isang malnourished na bata kasi gutom siya, pumapasok siya, sa tingin mo ba mas matututo siya? Gutom siya eh. Baka iniisip lang niya, ay, ako, gutom na gutom ako, hindi ako makakapag, I can't absorb this. So, yung nutrition, importante din yan. And then during the pandemic, napalala pa yan kasi diba yung school feeding program which benefited 1.8 million students in 2019 did not have that same access kasi nga sarado yung mga paaralan natin. So, further na exacerbate or mas napalala pa yan. And then, there's also this whole question of teacher quality. Palagi na namin sinasabi yan sa PBED, no? Na unfortunately, many of our teachers are not really classroom ready in the sense na kahit may licensure exam sila, or license sila, nung tinest, no, kung ano yung content knowledge nila sa mga subjects na tinuturo nila, on average mababa, right? 4 out of 10 lang yung questions na nasasagot nila ng tama sa subject na dapat tinuturo nila. So medyo mahirap din siguro turuan or magturo kung ikaw mismo kulang ka rin ng preparasyon, right? So these are just examples of factors that could contribute. Pero as I said, dekada na to na underinvestment in education, and that's something that we really need to correct.
Kumbaga, ang sinasabi niyo is madaming facets na dapat sanang kinonsider, hindi lang sa isang bagay tumitingin. Like for example, hindi lang sa number of classrooms, kumbaga doon din tayo tututok sa siguro quality of teachers that we are going to produce, na medyo napapabayaan. But tungkol pa din dito sa in your organization, ma'am, paano nyo, kumbaga I'm speaking about the numbers, no? Kumbaga, paano nyo masasabing okay na tayo sa ranking na ito when we get 50, 40, or 30, or shall we get 0 talaga when it comes to these numbers? Or paano nyo masasabi na when we get this particular number, we are okay? Parang ganun. Paano nyo mame-measure na when it comes to this assessment, no? Paano nyo mame-measure na we are okay with these numbers at the very least?
You mean learning poverty? Ano yung number na okay? Sa tingin namin?
Oh, yes. Para sa grupo po ninyo. Yes po. As far as you're concerned sa learning.
Dapat 0, diba? Okay. The idea is to eradicate poverty. And the idea is to eradicate learning poverty. But do you think given what is given
now, so, this is doable? Right?
I think so, but not overnight.
Okay. Salamat. Dahil yun din ang gusto kong
So,
marinig na sabi
wala naman tayong magic wand. Oo, wala naman tayong magic wand na magically tomorrow or 'di ba parang from 90 to 0. So siguro and then karamihan ng interventions, and this is why medyo tricky din yung education reform, right? Kasi kunwari may intervention tayo today, hindi natin makita yung results niyan after a couple of years pa. So I think kung meron tayong plano, so for example, i-aim natin, right, na by 2030 dapat mga lahati na yung learning poverty. Kunwari lang. So from 90 to 45. From 90 to 45 mga lahati. To get to that 45% learning poverty, kailangan meron tayong sustained at saka systematic na mga programa at polisiya para to get there. Right? So kaya sinusulong namin tong EDCOM 2 yung Second Congressional Commission on Education. Kasi kailangan natin na i-diagnose kung ano talaga yung mga problema, ano yung mga factors. So kanina nag-share ako ng 3. Pero marami pa yan eh. Like digital divide, lack of inputs. Also, the fact that our kids are sharing textbooks in this day and age shouldn't really be. When maraming mga yun, diba, nasisira lang na libro sa warehouse, we hear on the news. I mean, there are so many other factors. So, we need to look into that. Ano ba talaga yung mga factors na nagko-contribute dito sa learning poverty? Ano yung mga posibleng solusyon at posibleng mga programa at polisiya na dapat nating i-implement. And then, we get to that goal, right? Of maybe lang. And this is just, like halving. So, kalahatiin yung 90%. Kunwari lang by 2030. And then also making sure, right, that our graduates are also readily employable in the fourth industrial revolution, kasi yung mga trabaho nagbabago, may mga bagong trabaho, may mga trabaho na obsolete kasi yung skills hindi na relevant, etc. with technology. So all of these things, right, we need to think about. So yung namin, sinusulong din namin Second Congressional Commission on Education, na actually batas na kailangan na lang i-implement ng both houses of Congress. Kailangan ding tignan yan kasi marami talaga tayong dapat gawin, but hindi siya overnight. We need a plan, a systematic and sustained plan of action to get to a number. I'm not the person to to determine what that number is, right? Kung ako lang, dapat 0, but baka patay na ako by then, so baka masyado pang matagal. So kailangan din natin ng siguro mga intermediate goals, right? Kung ano yung mga numbers na that could sustain the reform effort.
Nakakataba ng puso, no, to see people like you from an organization who's very positive and looking forward, na talagang, kasi minsan naririnig ko sa mga Filipino, no, kung tatanungin mo sila, minsan parang sinasabi na let's just accept whatever we have right now as it is, but hearing what you're sharing now is that parang it gives me a ray of hope na meron, but it's not a question of when, dahil sabi mo nga, ma'am, matagal pa ang laban nito, but we will get there basta magtulong-tulong ang mga organisasyon na katulad ninyo at iba pang mga advocates ng education. I'm just very happy to know that na meron pa palang mga taong talagang naniniwala, no, that we are bound for whatever greatness that we want to achieve, especially sa sektor ng edukasyon.
Oh my gosh, it makes me sad to hear you say that, na may mga tao na, i-accept na lang. Kasi hindi ko alam kung kailan nagsimula yung kultura na nakikita natin sa social media, at saka yung mga narinig din natin sa mga kaibigan natin, yung kumbaga parang okay na yan, parang sige, okay na yan, parang tanggapin na lang natin. Since when did we ever rest easy, no? Kung parang when we see someone or something na problema talaga, kailangan solusyonan, diba? We need to do something. We need to be ambitious also for our people. Kailangan may ambition tayo para sa isa't isa at para sa ating mga sarili, diba? So, kung kita natin na naghihingaho na yung sistema ng edukasyon that actually affects all of us, hindi lang yung mga estudyante, kahit tayo na hindi na nag-aaral or gumraduate na. I think, Franz, ikaw nag-aaral ka pa, diba? Pero yung mga kahit hindi ka na nag-aaral, yung apektado ka kasi yung system of education ng isang bansa, determinant yan of shared prosperity. Yung mga bansa na hindi nag-invest sa education, yun yung mga bansa na hanggang ngayon mahirap pa rin. Kung titignan mo yung mga bansa na developed, so kunwari ngayon nandito ako sa France. France after World War II was even worse off, destroyed completely during World War II. But they were able to, one of the reasons why they were able to become, a first world country even after the devastation of World War II is because of their investments in education, right? So So I don't see any reason why the Philippines, with the great potential that it has, not just in natural resources, but most especially in its people, cannot achieve a level of greatness that we all should be aspiring for, you know.
Yes. To my next question, ma'am, as far as your organization is concerned, do you see any policy already or policy in the making na ginagawa ngayon ng Department of Education or iba pang mga sangay natin dito na humahawak or uh, focus sa education na para ma-achieve natin kung ano man yung kailangan na ma-achieve when it comes to, you know, not only the access of education but the delivery of quality education.
Mm. I think it's a good decision to reopen our schools. That's super, super important. And dahil during the pandemic, merong kumbaga paurong-urong yung ano no, yung opening of classes. Basta parang we just kind of like did not think about education that much. So the fact that they finally decided na buksan na yung mga paaralan, importante yan. That's a good thing. Importante din yung sinabi nilang may recent pronouncements na yung mga teachers para maibsan yung administrative labor nila, no, and so that they can focus on teaching, mag-hire daw yung DepEd ng mga administrative assistants, or they will open up administrative positions. Importante yan kasi dapat yung mga teachers, they should really focus on teaching, and they should also focus on learning, right? Professional development. Mahirap yan kung nag-ano ka rin, census ka rin, or kung ano-ano pa man yung mga administrative things na related na pinapagawa natin sa teachers. Importante din yung importante na ipatuloy yung 4Ps, no, yung pantawid kasi pamilya program, kasi kita natin yung improvements in education access after sinimulan yan during Gloria's time, and then expanded during Aquino's time. Now it's, I think, being reviewed and purged. The list is being cleaned up during President Marcos's time, kasi may mga gumraduate na, but you could see the improvements in education access because of 4Ps. So dapat ipatuloy yan talaga. And then may mga marami pang sinasabi. Although I don't super agree with the complete banning of extracurricular activities. I think, you know, as an education, as a student of education, important yan to learn socio-emotional skills, to interact with your peers, yung extracurricular activities, and it's part of a person's learning journey. But pero naintindihan ko naman na for this school year, kailangan talaga natin humabol kailangan ng remediation, kumbaga. So I think it's an okay move, at least for this school year, na kailangan talaga natin humabol, mag-catch up. May mga iba pa, like for example ngayon, or actually earlier this year, nilaunch ng Department of Education yung Basic Education Development Plan, or BEDP. Doon ina-outline yung sa dokumento na yon, ina-outline yung mga programa, yung mga polisiya, at saka yung mga measures of success kung paano natin ma-achieve yung improved learning outcomes, no, by 2030. So kung i-implement din yung BEDP, siguro makakakita na tayo ng mga resulta by then. Kasi yung BEDP, ano siya developed siya by many education experts, advocates, and also different stakeholders. So maraming opinions and expertise yung naisama sa BEDP as a guiding document.
As for my last question na lang, ma'am, I just really wanna ask your group about this. Sabi nila, may nabasa akong article, iba daw yung access to education, and iba din daw yung quality delivery of quality education. Sa tingin nyo, ano bang mga programa na dapat ay meron tayo for us to say that we have achieved this so-called access to education, and ano din yung sa tingin ninyong mga programa na dapat meron tayo for us to say that we have achieved quality education? Kumbaga, anong dapat na mga programa na dapat isulong for us to say that this is for access of education, and on the other hand, this is for quality education?
Okay, yes, definitely iba yung access from quality, right? That's why we also say schooling is different from learning, right? So nasa kumbaga access, pagpunta mo lang yan sa school, diba? Kung nakakapunta ba or nakaka-attend ba ang isang bata sa paaralan. Yung quality, kung natututo ba ang bata while nasa paaralan, habang nasa eskwelahan siya. So, different yun. Yung access, kailangan ko lang siguro i-nuance, no? It shouldn't just be access in blindly, but we need to talk about equitable access to quality education. Kasi, usually, yung mga hindi nakakapasok sa paaralan, yun yung mga mahihirap, diba, sa ating lipunan. Kasi marami silang, kung baka walang pagbayad, walang pagpunta. So, kailangan natin ng mga programa para so that we can bring those people, that segment of our society who really need help, back to school. So, ano yung mga programa? One, as I said earlier, yung 4Ps. Designed ang 4Ps to incentivize parents who are below the poverty line or part sila ng listahanan, incentivize parents to send their kids to school. So instead of papatrabahuin sa farms, they send their kids to school. That's super important, and it is proven to work. So that should be continued. The other one is school feeding programs. Important na incentive yan, kasi yung mga bata na nagugutom, and instead of maghanap ng manglilimos or para makahanap lang ng pagkain, they go to school because they know that they can have a warm meal. So that's another program that could improve equitable access. The other one, as you go higher in the grade levels, yung mga voucher programs. Kasi importante yan, kasi for example, yung school ay na maganda, ay malayo, pero may okay na school kaso private. So government actually gives vouchers to parents who are qualified, para instead na magpumunta pa sa public school na malayo, pwedeng gamitin yung voucher para makapag-aral ang isang bata sa isang private school na mas malapit, siguro mas better yung quality. So yung vouchers, importante yan. Now, when you think about access, we shouldn't also just think about schools, the physical schools. We also need to think about the way schooling or education is happening now in our world, which is very much technologically enabled. So, kailangan din natin ng mga programa to address the digital divide. So, dapat siguro panahon na para lahat ng eskwelahan natin ma-electrify na, di ba? So, yung 10% na wala pang kuryente, dapat siguro bigyan na ng kuryente. Dapat din siguro na i-consider na natin na dahil ngayon ang dami-daming magagandang content online, dapat siguro maka-benefit na yung mga Filipino learners, right? So how can we give access to computers and to the internet within reasonable boundaries, of course, to all of our learners? And then I think just on access, and to finish on this point, and I don't want to give you a laundry list kasi marami talagang programa, but important to para sa mga kababaihan. Proper bathrooms, proper toilets in schools. Importante yan. Especially yung mga kabataan na nag-undergo ng puberty. Pag nagka-menstruation na yan, sometimes they don't go to school kasi nahiya sila. Dahil hindi sila nakakapag, change or kapag they can't do their business properly in a clean and safe location. So toilets, although people don't think about it so much when you think about education reform, should really be thought about. So those are programs on access, equitable access, I should say. When it comes to quality education naman, maraming programa. So teacher quality is important. So we need to think about how we can really attract the best and brightest to the teaching profession. Make sure that they stay through continuing professional development. Make sure that there is career progression for teachers. Education inputs are very, very important as well. So we need to have good textbooks. We need to make sure that everyone has a textbook, and they don't share. And so each of our kids, have the resources so that they can really learn. They have good. Some even argue for, say, one laptop per child. So pwede naman siguro ma-share, but making sure lang that they really do have the inputs, the instruction materials that they need. And then there are many other things that are proven to improve education quality. Like, for example, letting the parents know how their kids are doing. So it's more of an information drive. And then when parents know that, okay, my kid needs help, actually, it's very instinctive for parents to seek out help and to make sure that their kids do well. So there are mga, what they call, like, mga non-traditional interventions, like for example, or non-education specific interventions that could actually improve education quality, like as I said, information drive, and then parental involvement and the like.
I just want to close this conversation with all the things that you've shared. I just want to close this conversation. Ano yung mensahe mo po sa lahat ho ng ating mga mag-aaral, no? Ngayong magbubukas na tayo for the school year 2022-2023. What's your message to them and to the government, no? Baka marinig nilang nitong interview na ito.
Para sa mga mag-aaral, alam ko mahirap na yung, at saka nakaka-anxious, or you're very anxious. Hindi ka sure kung okay ba yung pagpasok, kasi 2 years din na hindi kayo pumapasok sa paaralan, tapos ngayon kailangan mo na magsuot ng uniform, maaga gumising, etc. kasi may so maraming concerns. And then probably you're also thinking na baka sobrang behind na ako. What if mapag-iiwanan ako kasi mga kaklase ko advance sila, ako mahina. So maraming mga concerns. I know marami kayong concerns. Pero siguro I just hope na you persist. Kasi hindi natin nakikita yan ngayon, pero yung education ninyo, yung pagkatuto ninyo, magkakaroon yan ng napakalaking impluwensya kung anong klaseng tao kayo paglaki. And so just keep at it, even though it feels like napag-iiwanan. Hindi ganun, kasi wala namang competition yan eh. You're the only person you're competing with is yourself. So just make sure that you learn, you enjoy your time in school, reconnect with your friends in person, not just online, and really make the most out of your time in school, because at the end of the day, you will really thank yourself for all the efforts that you have put into it. So I hope that you enjoy your time in school and you learn a lot. For the government naman, I really hope that we push for all of these reforms, that we prioritize education and put our learners first. We spend so much time on infrastructure and all of that, but actually the biggest resource of our people, of our country, is our people, and we need to invest in our people as much as we can. So yun lang.
And that's it for this week's episode of On Point the podcast. Don't forget to follow us on our official social media accounts to keep you updated. This has been Franz Joshua Merida. Until our next conversation here on Point.